Black revolutionaries, distillery owners, Italian fashion retailers, and Motown Grammy winners all share their best stories never before told in any other media outlets on Detroit is Different. Visit DetroitisDifferent.com or download the Detroit is Different app on Apple's App Store or Google's Play Store.
Welcome back to the Detroit is Different podcast studios, and we keeping things rolling with people adding a lot of value to the city of Detroit. You know that Detroit is Different is about the culture of Detroit, heritage of Detroit, people adding value. And the man that I have that's the guest today is somebody that started doing things that you would never think would be possible, and finding out more about his story. Also a real cool guy. If you ever met him, very cool, friend of the community, friend of everybody, actually helping so many people in their health journey. And this term that a lot of people are using right now, the first person I've ever heard introduce this to me and break it down, is the man that I got before me. I'm talking about being holistic. Mr. Jesse Brown. Doctor, how you doing today?
Doing great, feeling good.
Okay.
And always glad to spend some time with you and sharing some good word.
Yes, sir.
About health and wellness and what we can do to turn some things around.
I'm with it, man. When I think so much about how we first met, and we'll talk a little bit more about that, introduce it to everybody. Your path in a holistic journey, I find so dynamic. Like a lot of great things that I think about in Detroit culture, like spectacles, all start on Dexter Boulevard. I'm just So before we get there, your life story, Detroit journey. Are you first generation here in the city? Did you have family here already? What connected you to Detroit?
Yeah, well, I'm first generation. My siblings and I are first generation.
Okay.
My father from Fitzgerald, Georgia.
Okay, where's Fitzgerald, Georgia?
Fitzgerald, Georgia is south of Macon. I believe it's southwest of Macon or so. So it's about 5 hours below Atlanta. And just 1 square mile. Small town.
You said 1 square mile?
1 square mile.
Wow.
Yeah, I think 1 square mile. I think that's pretty much the reference for what a city can be. But yeah, Fitzgerald is real small. And then he moved to Detroit some years later after high school in the Army, and then my mother came from Jersey City.
Wow.
So they're from Georgia and Jersey, but my sisters and I were born here in Detroit. So I was born and raised, here on the northeast side of Detroit. Went to Detroit public schools as well as went to Catholic schools, and then did my undergraduate degree in Eastern Michigan University, and then a number of certifications in holistic health leading up to my doctorate in naturopathy through Trinity School of Natural Health, and my master herbalist designation as well. So it's been quite a journey, primarily here in Detroit, but it's taken me all across the country and internationally.
All right, so let's unpack this a little bit. Jersey City.
City.
I'm so used to people coming from the South.
Yeah.
And definitely along those lines. A lot of Detroiters are from Georgia. A lot of Detroiters from Alabama. Those lines of the railroad, they get you here.
Yeah.
But Jersey City.
Well,
what was it that brought from Jersey to Detroit?
Oh, they brought her my grandfather.
Okay.
And my mother's family, my mother's family are Long Island natives. So they've got Native American heritage. So there's a cross of Native American and African American roots between my grandmother, my maternal grandmother, and my grandfather. And because they had been, Long Island for a long time. But she moved here, when she was in her teens. And right up until she passed away last year at the ripe age of 90.
Oh man, that's
Yeah.
heavy, man.
Yeah.
Congratulations on that. Condolences on the loss, but
Yeah.
that's a full cup right there.
Yeah.
And then from Jersey to here, and I'm asking that just on the strength of, you know, if you're close to so much industry there in that New York area, and being that your family roots go back as we're learning more about the influence of maroons and what we label as Native American actually being closer to what we label as, you know, what's been characterized as black skin. But
Yeah.
that relationship of so many of the maroons and even what Central Park was, like, for people that don't know, the black history of the city of New York it runs very deep,
Yeah.
you know. So to actually interview you and knowing that you're kind of connected to that in Long Island, which is its own culture of itself with black folks,
Yeah.
that's deep. That's deep. That's
Yeah.
deep. Are your family? You still have family out that way?
I still have family there. Our family reunion is Labor Day weekend every year between in Suffolk County, and there's some activities that go on at the Shinnecock Reservation there. So, you know, I because it's such a an active weekend, I haven't been there for a little bit, but yeah, my brothers are still there. Yeah.
That says a lot.
Yeah.
So coming here, and I'm guessing I guess that would be your maternal grandfather it was work that brought him here, I'm guessing. What was it that brought him to Detroit? Because he passed a lot of other industrial cities to leave Jersey. It's like you going past Pittsburgh, you going past Cleveland, you going past like other couple places that you could have, you know, settled up.
Yeah, he did. You know, my grandfather worked when he was here. I know for a long time he worked for Ford Motor Company. He worked in, I believe, a foundry, and retired, you know, from there. But he was also a minister.
Okay.
He had a church. He was Garveyite.
Wow.
He was he was an interesting man. He was, I want to say, somewhat soft spoken for a minister. And kind of ruled with a heavy hand, but he was introspective. He is the first person I know of that traveled to Africa. I know he went to Liberia, and he also sponsored one or two people to come from Liberia that came into the United States as well.
So now, I sometimes this happens on Detroit is Difference because I like to delve into like what brings people to Detroit and just the uniqueness so that you all can understand the culture of Detroit, because I had no idea that of this till now, knowing you. And for people that are unaware, Marcus Garvey created one of the largest organizations that ever existed in the history of America, period. So not just with black people, because they often like to frame it like, oh, it was a big organization for black people. The membership of the UNIA was vast, and it built the platform for what became Elijah Muhammad's Nation of Islam, though we know the roots of the Nation of Islam started here with Fard Muhammad, but the framing of it as Elijah took place really followed so many of the premises built by Garvey, and being a Garveyite built a lot of self-reliance, self-determination in defending ourselves as black people, running economies as black people in stores and clothing, international trade, hence the ship line,
Black Star Line,
And what a lot of people don't know, the foundation of the FBI was built specifically to topple Marcus Garvey and the Garveyites, the UNIA. So that also puts your family in a unique position where I'm sure just that awareness. And I could see, with those teachings, and there were so many foundations in cities like New York leading out, but Garvey built one of the largest institutions, like when we think of like in the span of a person's life.
Yes.
Ever. in American history.
Yeah.
And how did you learn of this? Did your grandfather share this information with you? Was it more like your mom shared this information with you? How did you hip to the game?
Mom,
Okay,
because
he didn't
again,
even really speak on it.
he didn't. Which is real interesting because he was the only grandparent that I ever knew. My father's parents were dead before he was 17. And my mother's mother died before she was 6 months old, so she never knew her mother. Only knew her father, her father, and then her aunt and grandmother, and the women actually raised her. As she would often say, he said, "I don't know what to do with
With the girl.
a baby, especially a girl baby." Yeah, and so so they were, for lack of a better word, estranged. Were separated for a time as he worked and he got remarried and some other things going on. So most of what I know about my grandfather, I learned through my mother.
Wow.
And what she shared.
That's deep.
'Cause she loved to share family history. She was all about family. And so she took care of him into his last days, and his uncles. He had two brothers. One moved here from Jersey City, and one had been living here and working in the automobile industry for a long time as well. So people gravitated toward Detroit, and Detroit is different in a lot of different ways. And Detroit has got so many firsts, such deep roots in history that people who live here and have lived here all their lives are not aware of.
Yeah.
One thing that is real interesting, and I'd say coincidental, or well, you mentioned Dexter Boulevard.
Yes.
Okay, and of course at 12th and or Rosa Parks and Linwood was where the 1967 rebellion began. Now, 1 mile west of there, at Dexter and Clairmount, is where Detroit Wholistic Center's first facility was established.
And that's where we definitely there. So
20 years later, here it is, 1967 to 1987. So I say where there was a rebellion, there was a renaissance or a new beginnings of sorts with Detroit Wholistic Center. And I didn't kind of realize that historically at the time, but that's actually what happened.
And from our last interview with the Black Coffee piece and some of the work that we were doing with shout out Frida, y'all know I love Frida Sampson, and she was like, we got to get Jesse in here, and I found out so much about you starting that business, and now we're here. So like holistic training, you spoke a little bit about Eastern and you also spoke about some DPS. But let's drive into what drew you into even wanting to learn about holistic or more about better health, better ways of living, because when you definitely don't look anything like your age or anything like that, but the whole concept of what health would be, of like how you were groomed and how school would teach you the 4 basic food groups, all of that stuff's like out the window. What led you to seek more knowledge about this and drew your attention to it?
I think a few converging factors. One, I got sick when I was 10. I lost, they operated on my sinuses, my tonsils and adenoids. Apparently, I was having what they would call tonsillitis, most likely just allergic to dairy. And then at 17, I got really ill. I got deathly ill. And I don't know if it started with a cold or something, but, or flu. I had mono. They call it infectious mononucleosis.
I thought that's like you kiss somebody and you get that.
They
say
call
that.
that the kissing. Yeah, they call
that's
that.
what
And then rubella. So I got so sick. I lost weight. I was sick for a month in the senior year of high school.
What school?
Pershing.
Oh man.
Yeah,
Doughboys. Doughboys in the house.
Doughboys.
A lot of people. I think of I think of the gardens and all type of stuff when I think of
Conant Gardens, Spencer Haywood, Steve Smith. There's a long history, strong history there. In fact, Jesse Owens lived in Conant Gardens at one point.
Wow.
But the getting sick, I think really got my attention. Because I tell you, there was times I was hardly breathing through my nose or my mouth. It was hard, to eat. And I was on the brink there for a while. So by the time I got over that and went back to school, my teachers, they thought that I had senioritis and, was just, that's what happens in senior say. Yeah, skipping school, you just, you think, last year of school. And that wasn't it at all. But then I started hearing people. I started hearing my Muslim friends who were talking about not eating pork and dietary laws. My Christian, in Christianity and all the major religions really have dietary laws. And so I was hearing more about that, and I was exploring, and in my teens and saying,
just independently.
Yeah. And Dick Gregory was a major influence.
Wow. So I think I was going to ask a Dick Gregory question.
Yeah, so somewhere in there I heard Dick Gregory, and that opened up my eyes. I followed him as much as I could. I would travel. Especially when I went to school, when I went to Eastern, I would travel. If I found out he was going to be somewhere, one time it was at University of Michigan, another time I think it was at Western Michigan University. He used to go to the colleges and universities across the country, and he would talk. And so part of his sharing was about what we call social justice and civil rights and what he had done with Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. And the other part of it, he would talk about diet, and he was in his vegetarianism and his fasting and running across the United States. I mean, this man did some incredible things.
Oh, his life story, for people that don't know, and I often give the example of when we think of what Black success is, and the arc that I usually use of the definition of Black success. I look to the story of Dick Gregory as his works. I do think as definitely being more present with family. And I think that's the balance that he would even say as time went on.
Yeah.
That was a sacrifice. But when I compare his life to right now, people don't look at Bill Cosby and see Bill Cosby for what for a lot of times was the arc of success, because people would say, wow, Bill Cosby's so successful. But Dick Gregory at one point in time not only had the stage of success, but his work starting off with Medgar Evers and the civil rights movement became a gateway for so many other social causes and enlightenment, and his runs across America and his fast for justice and his stance against the Vietnam War. Like he basically for young people watching this, Dick Gregory was as popular as Kevin Hart. He was the most popular comedian in America at one point in time, and he basically would say, okay, it would be like watching Kevin Hart say, you know what, I'm not going to perform any more comedy until these people that murder Breonna Taylor, until social justice is taken forward for all of the cops that have murdered these Black people. It will be shocking. And then to see him lead a lot of these causes.
Yes.
And then in that same pivot, he also pivoted and created so many things in ways to heal yourself in health, because at one point in time he was like 350 pounds and he was like, okay, if I'm gonna be out here protesting, I gotta heal, I gotta be right to fast and make these actions. And
he was smoking, he was drinking, he was
Yeah.
He was definitely not the picture of health. And then he met Alvenia Fulton out of Chicago. Dr. Alvenia Fulton was a naturopath, and she was really the person who taught him and influenced him.
Yeah.
And he and I think it was she, along with some others. I'm trying to think. Dr. David, who helped him formulate what they call this 4X formula, what became the Bahamian diet.
Yeah.
In fact, that was one thing that, as I was going from corporate America after I did my undergrad and went to corporate, working for a couple of communications companies, and as I was coming through that, I was distributing the Dick Gregory Bahamian diet, and that was very popular. That was he had $100 million contract with it was performance based. But he had a $100 million contract back then, and that was in the
late
late
80s, early 90s. Yeah,
early 90s or
Yeah.
so. And he turned down a lot of money for comedy and entertainment for civil rights causes, and influenced a lot of people in the whole generation. Of performers as well.
His fasting led to my father saying, like, okay, I'm gonna start fasting. Like, and it had an impact on a lot of people.
Oh, yeah.
Hence, for when people ask always this question, like, why do entertainers and why do they matter? They matter because it can be like a gateway to other things.
Yes.
Like when I also think of the enlightenment of my father, I think Muhammad Ali was a gateway for my father to have interest in Malcolm X, to have interest in like teachings of the nation, and then gather other understandings of black men and black people, of who we are and historical. Like sometimes like it may take a line here or there from Chuck D and Public Enemy to enlighten a person to go a step further and not necessarily stay there. I mean, some people may stay there, but it opens up your horizon. So it's unique that you say Dick Gregory was a gateway when you were already seeing things in your body from that incident at 10 and then at 17 that like, okay, it can be more that I can learn in this. And now you have basically someone culturally kick it to us where we relate to it. Yeah. Because, very funny, charismatic. He knows how to deliver a message where it's impactful.
And it works hand in hand. In that, one, we need, and I tell you, the way that we receive, the way that people of color especially, and many others as well, but definitely people of color, receive information is through engagement, is through entertainment, so when we talk about spoken word and songs and all this, in fact, if it weren't for Stevie Wonder's Happy Birthday song as a tribute to Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King, we may not have the holiday. So whenever a movement has a song behind it, it kind of drives it. But we need to have this in the culture because you can't just talk about health. It's an active principle. So we've got to be about it. So when people hear it, it's the movement and the rhythm and everything else, it reinforces the learning. It enforces it makes it somatic, so to speak.
And I still find it still fascinating, as you say, in 1987. So for people that aren't very familiar with Detroit, like Dexter Boulevard is a place where, it's such a classic example of a black community and like a snapshot of it. People on the east side talk about Dexter like, oh, you go over there, you're going to get murdered. It's definitely a lot of, as I say, it's a lot of black collar business happening on Dexter Boulevard, but it's also a lot of families, community that has been there for a long time. And in 87 to put a health food store on the corner of Clairmount and Dexter, and as far as I'm concerned, I still think that like anything on that side of Dexter is Joy Road when we think of Clairmount. In my mind, that's just how I look at Clairmount. You know what I'm saying? It's like, oh man, that ain't Clairmount. I think Clairmount's closer to Central High School and all of that, closer to where the rebellion started. But it's like Dexter, Joy. You don't think a health food store in the 80s would be successful. You placed it there.
Holistic Health Center.
There we go.
Okay,
Holistic.
we were doing some products, but it was primarily holistic health services. And actually, people told me it wasn't going to last. You can't do well there. But, there was a whole lot of story around that. I didn't accept it. So I distributed, again, a lot of regular Bahamian diet. We're doing colon hydrotherapy. We actually outgrew the place within 5 years. So I was there from 87. We were there from 87 to 92. And then 1992, we moved over on Grand River and spent the next 27 years there and expanded in terms of product services and the training as well. Because what's happening is that the natural, the holistic, that whole foundation in terms of healing was not being taught, or was being taught, here and there.
Yeah, this is pre-internet too, so it's not like you can
Yeah.
Google it or watch a couple YouTube videos.
There we go.
This is,
And some people think that's all there is to it, and it's
okay, and we're going to talk a little bit about that because I do want to talk about today's snapshot where I see it's definitely been, like a lot of things in America, as things become more popular, it becomes a commodity, and then it becomes marketed, and then it becomes like an industrial complex, you know. So, but you were in this space and field, and you've always carried yourself almost as like your best spokesperson too, because even, when I first met you, you were talking about alkaline water. And I was like, what is that? And then you had to, you pass the information without a lot of judgment, at least. And you also offer the space and place of enlightenment for so many people. And that's why I always felt that your success kind of is an extension of who you are and how you carry yourself and how people connect to what you offer.
Yeah.
But opening that space on Dexter, what was it like, day one opening there in that community, like smack dab across the street from one of the most Coney Islands that Coney Island in the hood.
Oh yeah. Well, it was wow. It was scary at times. Because when I first opened, I was looking outside. I mean, I didn't have a whole lot. I didn't have a whole lot of business. I didn't have a base or anything like that. I was the new kid on the block. I was new to that. Some, people had mixed feelings about the area. In fact, my oldest daughter said, "Dad," she said, they said that this is the worst neighborhood in the city. They had a picture of the corner of the store, which was 1 block away from us. I said, no, this is good. So I had to build an oasis there. And I painted, I put numbers, I tried to create a light there that would emanate elsewhere and do so much good that it would transform. And I know it had an influence on our neighbors. We did a rapping haunted house. This probably the city's first and only rapping haunted house.
Explain what a rapping haunted house is.
A rapping haunted house was when Halloween was coming around. And there were a number of youth in the community, and some of them would do shovel snow and do different things around the center. So it was about inclusion as well. It's like, how do you what do you do here besides just healing?
Yep.
Just healing people or working with people. You heal the neighborhood. You reach out. We want to be good neighbors and investors in the community. And so there were some of the young people that I met, and they were looking at the rap game and everything. I said, okay, let's do something different. Let's say I'm gonna have a rapping haunted house. And so each of the as they would go through the haunted house, each room would have different ghouls or characters in there.
Yeah, scares, and then
It
they
would
start.
be werewolf weed head. It would be count cocaine.
Oh,
It
wow,
would
that
be
is scary.
and they would talk about. They would rap about
the dangers,
the dangers and the ills. And in the last room, there was a person, in a casket. This is what happens if you use drugs. So it was kind of an anti-drug
Wow.
message.
That's interesting.
And it really took off. We had groups of people come in here. We had, people want to go in again and again and again. So again, we want to be good I wanted us to be good community partners in terms of the message. So we had, again, community involvement in young people. So it helped them to engage. And when I would see these young people out here on the street and, they're walking or whatever, it looked like they were late for school, I'm like, hey, I'm yelling out the window or out the door. It's like, wait a minute, aren't you supposed to be in school? What's going on? So here's the thing is that we've got to create an atmosphere where we're no longer afraid to speak to our children. And so the things that we see that we feel are problematic, that we're doing something about it. I'm a child of the 60s and 70s, and so it was Black Power and all these positive things that were going on, and the rebellion was about all that. It's like, wait a minute, no, we're not taking this anymore, but we want to see some positive things, and I was seeing that turn the other way. So instead of it being a place where Detroit was a haven for drugs and the neighborhood was for drugs, it's like, how do we utilize natural health and natural living to kind of counterbalance that?
Yeah.
And that's what was happening.
Because, 87 was also definitely one of those pivotal times when crack cocaine was impacting our communities.
Absolutely.
Dexter was definitely one of those communities where, and some of
Yeah.
holistic healing has been a space where people have sought and found recovery.
Oh yeah. I had clients who were on, who were on drugs. I had people who were looking to turn around their lives, and so through cleansing, through fasting, through nutritional supplementation, through going through these processes, it helped them to overcome. Okay, and again, so my approach on that is that many times it only takes one. So they say it's one in every family, and usually has a negative connotation. But sometimes it just takes one person in a family to be a positive influence that can change the direction of the family, that can help break that generational curse, that will help to convert and recruit other people. Just as somebody, it's like you could turn somebody on to alcohol or tobacco or drugs, you can turn them the other way as well.
So, starting off and opening the center, what were you treating for the most part? What were people responding to? I know you said definitely the Bohemian diet, but what else were people looking for treatment?
It was primarily weight loss.
Okay.
It was cleansing, and they kind of go hand in hand as well. Dick Gregory shared one thing, because at that time somewhere in that time he was doing some work in the Bahamas, and he set up a facility there. Yeah. I think first perhaps in Florida and then in the Bahamas, where he was helping really obese people to lose weight. And one of the things that he used, and one of the tools that we used, was a colon hydrotherapy.
What's that?
Colon hydrotherapy, colonics, enemas at given at a more extensive form of an enema. In fact, he was criticized for that, and he said, well, why are you giving these people enemas? They're overweight. He said, you don't get to be 300, 400, 500 pounds and not be constipated. Okay, so what he learned from
Dr. Fulton.
Dr. Fulton, was that were the principles of the fasting, the cleansing, using herbs and other things. So we, basically had people on the program, and the amazing thing about it is it not only helped people and he also had a product called Correction Connection, which was a formula designed to address addictions tobacco, alcohol,
Could
drugs,
be
etc.
food or whatever. Yeah.
Okay.
So that's
So
unique.
yeah,
And then you transition to a new community.
yeah,
And that
yeah,
footprint, and that's like a whole, it's a different culture over
yeah,
there. That Grand River space
yeah,
is it's unique too, because it's kind of like you got Rosedale Park like on one side of you,
yeah,
and then you got Brightmoor kind of like on the other side of you.
yeah.
Like it's a, which is such a, for the people, Rosedale Park is one of the more affluent communities,
Mm-hmm.
and I think like affluent for families. Like, I mean,
Yeah.
Sherwood Forest, some families, but I think people move to Sherwood Forest probably usually a little bit older after the kids moved out. They want like some
Mm-hmm.
fly stuff, but Rosedale Park is more like a family atmosphere, whereas
Mm-hmm.
Brightmoor still in the family, but just not, more under resourced. It's tougher over there. So now
Yeah.
you move to that community. What
Mm-hmm.
was the response? What was the difference, having a space over that way?
Yeah, one of the reasons why I moved there is because I looked at where people were coming from and found there was a very strong concentration of people in 4238, 4227, and 4219. And so that helped, as we were outgrowing a space, and as the neighborhood was still transitioning on Dexter, we needed to grow. So when we moved over there, got great reception. In fact, we went from one building to two buildings to three buildings to, doing more services, more products, more therapy rooms. Established one of the largest centers of its type in the country. 5 therapy rooms, and over time we saw over 60,000 people. So the reception was good. From the neighborhood and from other areas as well. It's also close enough to the freeways and where people are coming from Ypsilanti, Ann Arbor, Lansing, greater Detroit metropolitan area, and elsewhere. And then of course established one of the buildings primarily for the education and training. So that helped a great deal because I was able to conduct some training in one of the buildings, and then a lot of the hands-on in another. So it gave us the space to grow that we needed. And I had people coming from Canada and across the U.S. And even they had some international students, to train there as well. So excellent reception, great acceptance from the community, from the religious community and the worship, and again, people coming from all over. So we were well received.
That's deep, and
Yeah.
that's powerful. And in this work now, the pandemic brought about a lot of shifts.
Yes.
For you, the shift was now your master teaching has transitioned to online.
Exactly. Yeah.
Share and explain.
Well, I had started an online platform. So let's see, rewind a little bit. 1999, I established a state licensed school. It took me about 2 years, from probably 1997 to 1999, was establishing a school, what we call a proprietary school, a trade school for holistic health. The only one in Detroit, the only state licensed school of its type, for holistic health, or in the African American community in the country. And so I was primarily doing the training there, but people were, it was kind of an issue. I had people coming from Chicago and someplace, primarily Midwest, and then again Canada, some places. But that was a bit of a hindrance, in that it's like, okay, how long do I have to be there, and what do I have to do?
Yeah,
and so,
and this is like,
so,
99, Airbnb ain't what it's
yeah,
at, and Uber
it really
and everything.
yeah.
So it's like, now I
What
got to
about a
find where I
hotel,
find,
and
where
get
do I
back
go?
and forth, and how much is it going to be?
And you're like, hey, I run a school, not I'm not a travel agency.
Exactly, yeah. So as we expanded the curriculum and what we're teaching, and at a point, online courses were becoming more popular. Adopted, got an online program. So I was kind of doing hybrid. I was doing classes in on site and with a portion of it being online. what happened in 2020 when we shut down in March of 2020 due to
The pandemic.
due to the pandemic. There were people who were saying, Dr. Brown, you can't just stop. You can't. I'm like, listen, I've been doing this for over 30 years, and you know what? I really could use a rest from this, but I took off a lot of the remainder of 2020 primarily, but the beginning of 2021, with the assistance of some people who were encouraging me, and some students who were enrolled in the class. I started the online classes in January, and actually my enrollment quadrupled. Okay. So I'm like, wow, I'm able to. And I had 7 people from 5 different states, from Alaska, Florida, Georgia, Illinois, different places around the U.S., Arizona, and they kind of opened my eyes to some other possibilities as well. And I said, okay, I could do this online. I don't have to deal with weather and a number of different factors. And so we've been working with refining and defining and doing that to reach more people. Because my vision for a long time has been to train a healer in every home, every family, every community, and to let that the empowerment, employment, entrepreneurship permeate different communities, plant the seeds so that people everywhere could have access to this, could learn, and could start within their own sphere of influence. And it's been working quite well. Okay? And and we couldn't have done it without doing it online, because you can't teach everybody from. I don't care where where we would have been in Detroit or any place in the country. You can't reach everybody, but online we can reach. We can reach millions virtually. So that's what we're in the process of doing.
And then building that always in the tech too, and being willing to pivot as an entrepreneur. When I met you through, shout out Ken Harris, another doctor now. But I met you with the International Detroit Black Business Expo years ago, and just your energy, like I say, it's like you walked in the room and I was like, okay, what does he do? And it's like a holistic center. I'm like, what is holism? Like, what's holistic? Break this down. And then it's like, okay, well, it's the way that we live life a more holistic way. I bring that to like the pandemic just awakened myself and many other people. I didn't share with many people, but I had COVID. It wasn't that tough. I didn't share with many people. It wasn't that tough of a bout, but I went right back into my thought process of like what I knew in the vitamins, and since then I've kept up more of my regimen. I'm monitoring, vitamin D, zinc, and focusing more on like, okay, I'm not all the way off dairy, but it's like I'm more monitoring. It's like, okay, that dairy is going to build up my it's going to build up mucus. It's gonna mess things up. Like I've been more in tune since then, and I'm sure many other people probably gravitated to you immediately, because it was like, okay, I know I'm putting stuff that tastes good that ain't good for me in my body, because I don't know how to make the stuff that's probably good for my body taste good. I haven't done the, learn that. It's so many people, many Americans, we're rushing, hence fast food, the preservatives of it, the sodium. We know that this stuff, you know what I mean? I buy that apple from Kroger, that sits in my refrigerator for 3 weeks. I buy an apple from Randazzo's. If I don't eat it within 4 days, which means to me, it's probably supposed to be like this apple from Randazzo's.
Yeah.
So in that wake-up call, I'm sure that brought so much more attention to you.
Yeah, it has. And you see that reflected on the internet, with so many people. There's no single thing that I could have done, or a bunch of my colleagues and I could have done to say, hey, pay attention to your health. Your health is most important.
Yeah, health is wealth, as they say.
But COVID shut the world down and put everybody's attention clearly on their health. And so it's influenced the market, and the natural products market, and immune system products, and on and on. So there's the natural products industry is about 260 to 270 billion dollar industry, projected to go to 300 billion by about 2024 and 400 billion by 2030.
I mean,
that's how fast it's growing.
It blew my mind during African World Festival this year. So concurrent with African World Festival, if you drove down to African World Festival this year to go to Hart Plaza, you were probably like, man, I can't find a parking space. But these people don't look like they're going to African World Festival. You know, it was a whole vitamin world convention going on there where I was like, man, these people, I'm like, where are these? I'm like, these people look like they're from across the world. And this lady I was like, where are you from? And she was like, I'm from Ecuador. I'm like, wow, you from Ecuador? You came here to a conference at Cobo Hall?
Now, speaking about history, and I'm not going to mention the name of the company that had a large convention. But word is that the people who were starting that company and at a point had spoken to my holistic grandparents about formulas and what was going on. So the roots of that company and some roots in this industry also started in Detroit.
Wow.
You know, in fact, there was a Dr. Frank Bracey and Mother Elizabeth Bracey. He was a chiropractor. She was an herbalist and a homeopath.
What's a homeopath?
Well, someone who practices homeopathic medicine, and that's we could do a show on that.
Yeah, because I don't even know what that. So like homeopathic medicine would be.
It is a natural. Well, it's working with cell salts. It's working with what they call homeopathic remedies. One of the principles is like cures like. So you could take things from nature that would cause a symptom. If you take it in a very small dose, it will eradicate it.
Like the brother, I learned this with the pandemic too. I didn't know it was a black man, which I should have known anyway. I mean, it's almost like you find out, it's like, damn, a black man invented everything. That it was what's accredited with the discovery of vaccination was a black man that was enslaved on a plantation, saying like, okay, if you take enough of a little bit of this and expose the cell to enough, and he knew just enough, which I'm sure they're crediting him, but I'm sure it was probably, for him to know, it was probably passed down generations of knowing like, oh man, that ain't nothing but a little yellow fever. Take a little bit of this because that'll get at, and you good, you know. I'm sure it was like that, you know.
So vaccinations actually, I would say, are an offshoot of homeopathy.
That's what I was going to say. It sounds very similar.
Yeah.
So I didn't know. I mean, I just never even heard of the science.
Natural remedies and a natural way of living is what kept us for so long.
Yeah.
Just a generation ago, my parents didn't have health care, a health care plan all their lives. Okay, what saved my father's life early on when he got a fever, I don't know if it was scarlet fever or something else, but when in his youth, I'll tell you, both he and his brother got sick. They were swimming in a pond or something. Both of them got sick with this fever. His brother died, he lived, but they nursed on him with herbs. Okay, that's all they had at the time. That's all we could afford. Okay. And so what we're seeing is a resurgence. So to me, it's about preserving, protecting, promoting, perpetuating, or passing these things along. The kind of the roots of our roots, the herbal heritage that has been with us for since before slavery.
Yeah, I mean, obviously. And I mean, even knowing different things, like even in my garden, and it's great. Shout out to Halima, Tepfira, so many, Aaron, like Baba Malik, obviously, which I'm sure you probably know Baba Malik since Eastern. But,
exactly. We went to college together. Yeah.
So it's like you knew young Baba Malik. So
Malik Yakinian, yeah.
Yep. And probably Dr. Peters and a lot of those people. But when I walk through and they'll know they can look at something and it's like, okay, you can take this with that. Because it's even those remedies of like, okay, I'm dealing with mites eating a lot of my collards at the beginning of the summer. So it's like, okay, you can spray this, but next year you need to plant these plants next to this because everything has a natural solution, hence the balance in life.
Yes.
It makes perfect sense.
Yes. Yeah, it does.
You just have to know naturally what it is, and hence when things become a commodity, because I was trying to think ahead of the game. It's like I grow such great collard greens and kale. I'm gonna just focus these boxes on collards and kale, but all that leafy green, as I found out, it attracts the same. It attracts the same bugs. It's like, oh, man, I basically created like a oasis for them to be like, oh man, he done created a festival over here for that.
Yeah,
it's like I should have put some different styles of planting. Like it's a reason that things are planted a certain way. It's a reason that things are planted in certain seasons. And when you work against that, this is where things and the illnesses and the sicknesses come about for us because that's not what's natural. Hence, this leads to the next question, and I know it's a long soliloquy. Y'all know me, Detroit is different. Because right now, the health industry, in a lot of ways, is becoming very industrialized.
Yes,
it's becoming very commoditized. When I interviewed a makeup artist from, and she's a chemist, she said it's even like now the standard of natural. You can put the label of natural on something, and it's like a certain standard the FDA has made for what something is natural. So for what you all are thinking about, like, okay, I look at something and it's
Don't
like...
say Alyssa Space.
Yes.
It was Alyssa Space? Okay.
Yeah. So it's like, so now I look at something and it's like, wow, it's like, how natural is this? It's like, it's been in my mind ever since then but it makes sense because it's like a standard. And as long as the chemicals have this much in it, it's natural, which is like in your mind, that ain't natural. But someone like you, as things are shifting, how do people still arm themselves and empower themselves as they're looking to make these transitions? But it's also, American capitalism is in the mix too. They trying to make money off of it,
Well, the one of the most common answers is education. But there's so much, there's education, there's misinformation out there. I mean, on the internet, there's just as much misinformation.
I'd say more.
There is quality information. So we need to learn. Here's the thing. In fact, what you're speaking of in terms of not just having single crops and having diversity in terms of the environment and everything is hearkening back to what's now being termed organic regenerative agriculture, where everything is a holistic concept, where the plants and the herbs and everything, there's more diversity, similar to what happens in life and the best thing that happens in life. It's like a field of just red flowers is not as attractive as the diversity that you see in wildflowers and different things going on there. But we need to have more diversity in terms of our makeup in business, in community, and we need to have more diversity in nature as well. Organic regenerative agriculture. That's emerging as well as a new area of study and focus, and as a remedy to
commercial agriculture.
Commercial agriculture, not using so many, the chemicals and all this, and having more balance and balancing out the effects of global warming, et cetera. Anyway, so when it comes to naturalness, you have a lot of money. You got multi-billions of dollars that are invested in getting their products to market. So besides just the education about it, and I'll say the education in terms of what our bodies are, what our bodies need, what is food, growing food. I put in 4 garden beds this year, and I've done more gardening this year than I ever have actually in my life. But, I was doing some things at the center, and I had a garden about 7 years ago. But I learned more about growing the plants and foods and all that through this experience. And we need to get our children involved. We need to Again, understand what our body needs and start growing that, so we have food security, food availability, and so we can also appreciate nature, because when if we don't poison our plants at home in our gardens, then perhaps we won't be poisoning and allowing poisons to go into the waters and the skies and in the land elsewhere as well. Become more sensitized to that. Okay? We already see where glyphosate, is on the market, and that it's poisoning. And we're like, okay, I'm going to put down weed killer.
Yeah.
Instead of understanding that these are herbs, we're looking at them as being something that we don't want.
We think it's
Weeds.
aesthetically unpleasant.
There we go. Yeah, it's like, this is medicine. We're walking over medicine instead of appreciating the medicine and knowing how to utilize it. So it's education, it's application, it's appreciation, it's changing the educational curriculum in schools, because there's some things in school that children are being taught, and even adults in college, that are practically worthless compared to how do you live, how do you work, and what's going to be beneficial for you and your loved ones. You were talking about me not looking my age, as many people say. I went to a picnic with a number of my friends from high school, around the people that went to school around the same time, and most people, those of us who were still here, most of them diabetes, high blood pressure, obesity, all kinds of things. People were coming up to me, all kinds of things. It was almost depressing hearing about all these things. But what happens is we don't learn about that. We know more about our cars, we know more about our houses than we do our bodies. Okay? Is that by design, or is that by neglect? Okay?
I would say it's probably like a percentage thing. Like, some of it's design, percentage of it's neglect. I think more of the percentage is design, especially in the black community, than neglect. And then by the time you get to the point where design, you can take more control of it, then neglect may take over. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. So the ergo, a healer in every home, in every family.
Yeah.
At least one person. One of my sisters advocated for me to take classes, and in fact, I started my classes on Dexter Boulevard, the place that I learned and kind of was mentored, and was where I also started the first iteration of Detroit Wholistic Center. But she said, "Hey, I'm working. We're working. You need to be the kind of the point person." And so my first class on nutrition, my first class is on healing and pain therapy, my first class is in holistic health. Came as a result of me kind of being that designee. I had the interest, I had a strong interest, and I had the encouragement and support of family. And so all that I brought back to the family. Okay? And as that's happened, then guess what? The culture in the family changes.
Wow.
The choices in terms of food and things. I mean, it impacted my mother more than my father. It was like I stopped eating meat. My mother she kind of went back and forth for a time. Before a long time, she stopped eating meat. She was plant-based for a good part of her the latter years of her life. Now here it is, her youngest child influenced her to change that, and she was very open. I trained her. She was a therapist. She did front office and all kinds of things, and I employed a number of my family members as well.
That's big.
And that's what we got to do.
That's
it's
big.
Empowerment, employment, entrepreneurship. A reason that drugs proliferate, drugs or alcohol, tobacco, whatever, any number of the negative things, the reasons why they proliferate in our communities is because they're profitable. Not because people choose. Nobody who comes up at 6 years old and say, "Yeah, I want to smoke and I want to drink and I want to mess up my body." Nobody says that. I want to eventually have COPD. I want to be a drug addict, and and I want to die early or be sick most of my life. Nobody says that. But what happens is that when people are making money from this, that's what they're going to do. If you have a candy store, you're going to sell candy, and if that's supporting the family, then and you're going to bring candy home. And if it's a liquor store, you're going to bring liquor home. If it's, if you're selling drugs, and hopefully you won't get high on your own supply, but chances are you will. The people around you are going to be influenced by that. We have to make health and wellness profitable, preferred, attractive. Okay, so as we change that culture, and again, with $276 billion industry going to 300 and then 400 billion, there is a lot of money in health, and we got to bring that forward. So the people are making money doing positive things. So it's like, okay, you're doing fitness and exercise, you're doing nutrition, you're doing coaching, you're doing cleansing, you're doing whatever. And as those things become more positive and attractive, that's going to change the way that we live.
Now, I just, and then I want to give you some space just to, share whatever else you want to share. This has been a wonderful interview, but guilty pleasure question right now in my journey of health. One of the big things my homie Mike Willingham is heavy on, and sometimes he presents it where it's like, okay, I can try that, or I'll throw something at him. But he got big on doing and it's so funny. My Grandma Vale, I got to introduce you to Grandma Vale. She used to be heavy on it, but she drink it straight, and I'm like, woof, that's a little tough. But she was always heavy on this ginger mix of ginger and lemon.
Okay.
I added a little honey because that's what he did with his. And it's been so surprising, the impact. And I'm not saying it'll have this impact on you. I share some with my dad. It does on him as well. And he likes it. It gives me such a quick wake up. It's like I have a shot of this ginger lemon mix.
Yeah.
What is it about ginger now, as I'm diving into that at this time right now, that has these impacts on it seems like it wakes up it's like I'm more active. I'm ready for if I run, I run on Sundays and Tuesdays. So on Sundays and Tuesdays, I'll take that shot and
you're a runner.
I'm ready. I'm jogging, running. I like Northwestern is the best track in Detroit as soon as they open it up. So I'm caught sometimes having to go to Central, which is but yeah, man. Yeah.
Okay.
Central, Northwestern, sometimes Wayne State, sometimes Mumford, man.
Yeah. Well, ginger's got such a long history. It's good for is good for the digestive system. And that you're taking it along with honey, so it's going to improve circulation. It's going to move mucus. It's going to, open up some of the channels of your body. We have to do is we do things for the digestive system. It helps the immune system. And when it improves circulation as well, then our body can get more nutrients to the cells. Okay. So it's a stimulant of sorts as well. So your ginger shots, just think about it. Ginger beer.
Yeah.
You got Africa, the Caribbean, and elsewhere. They've been using ginger for a very long time. Okay? It's relatively simple to make. Now, commercially, you may have some of these ginger beer
Yeah, I know. Yeah, whatever.
Well, yeah. I'll say one of the most popular ones, and I think it may have even originated in Detroit. Now, if you look at it, it has no ginger in it.
Wow.
It held a ginger flavor, but originally it was a medicinal drink. And ginger, root beer was made from roots. What were the roots? They were herbal roots, sarsaparilla, and of course, we got sarsaparilla, we got burdock, we got yellow dock, we have other medicines that were made from roots. Originally, many of these things were medicinal drinks to address the ills that we had of the day. Okay, and they've been commercialized. And now it's just it's taste. You could have a lemon drink or lemon beverage or what they can call it, lemon, cherry, ginger, any number of things, and it contained no lemon, no cherry, no grape, no as it did before. So what you're doing is you're opening things up, you're getting more bioavailability, you're doing some things that are beneficial for the lungs. You could actually even take some of that ginger pulp and use it on the body in different ways as well. And when we drink the dairy and have the white flour and these things, we are congesting the body. We are causing stagnation, which is a precursor to diseases. Okay, and it's not just mucus; it's congestion. Okay, so there's a book called The Mucusless Diet. A lot of people talk about Sebi, and in fact, he worked at the center when he was in Detroit.
Wow.
For a time in the early days.
Ain't that something?
Yeah. So I mean, I was right alongside him as he was seeing
And exploring his
seeing
studies.
clients and selling the herbs and things in his program. But he would say, "Oh, it's mucus. Everything is mucus." The Chinese, much before then, they say it's congestion. The Chinese say there's one disease, congestion, and one cure, circulation. So those things that move congestion, because like everything is not just mucus. Like if you go to Flint and you say, okay, these people have got lead in their body. Guess what? That's not mucus. Lead is not mucus.
Good point.
Heavy metals are not mucus. The kidney stones are not mucus. Okay, so you got different things that are congesting, that can clog, that can cause problems that are not just mucus.
Because the circulation of your body isn't, it's not getting to where things need to go. Whereas if you can circulate, whatever's not needed, it's going to obviously pass.
You want the body, you want the channels of elimination to be able to move those things out through the skin, through the kidneys, through the liver, the bladder, the bowels, etc. Okay, so that's one of the principles, and that's one of the things that the physician did. A physic is something that moves things out of you. So the herbalist, helped to give you things that would move things, cause you to expectorate or regurgitate or defecate or urinate or perspirate.
Yeah.
That's not a real word.
To get
perspire, to get it out of the body. And so, and to facilitate healing. Okay? And so if we understand those principles and understand that the body needs to take in nutrients, but it also needs to eliminate waste, you need to have efficient ways to eliminate this waste out of the channels of the body. And again, as we understand the body more, then we'll be able to help ourselves, our loved ones. We'll be healers instead of drug dealers. Okay? Because if you ask the average person, you say, "Oh, okay, what would you take for a headache?" Somebody can almost go in their purse and have
Tylenol or something like that.
Tylenol, acetaminophen, or whatever. They got a drug for that. Oh, you got something for that. Oh, you got sister, you got cramps. I got a drug for that. Oh, you got you got the sniffles, something like that. Oh, I got a drug for that. Here's an antibiotic or something like that. People have that in their purses, in their homes, in the medicine cabinets, etc. Whereas years ago, when I was coming up, we had castor oil, Father John. We had castor oil, cod liver oil, 3-6s. We had all kinds of things that were natural remedies, and we've gotten so far away from
stuff.
Hot toddies, yeah. And again, in the Caribbean, Africa, the ginger beer and cleanses and bitters.
Even the like I guess the liquors being spirits. Technically, but I'm sure, obviously, the spirits of like in a Haiti are completely like that will be used for healing. It's not like cognac. It's not like Hennessy.
Well, there are some gins like gin is made from from juniper berry. There are some alcohols, and there are therapeutic medicinal applications for alcohols as well. Okay, and the reason why that hot toddy and things were there. So it's learning. It's learning, relearning, and unlearning. So when we get to the point where people in our families can say, yeah, you could take a Tylenol, acetaminophen, or something, or you could take this, and they know an herbal remedy, they know an herbal equivalent, or they know a technique that will alleviate headaches and pains and alleviate congestion, etc. When we can understand what I call ATM, how to assess, how to treat, how to maintain, and then what to monitor and measure, we can navigate within the medical system as well as a holistic system. Okay? I mean, just by understanding principles. Everything is ATM. For me, everything is ATM, and all my students know ATM. It's like, what is ATM? Assessment. First you need to have an assessment. What's going on with you? Not with everybody. Oh, everybody has a... Yeah, ain't necessarily so. What's going on with you? If you don't have a good assessment, then we have a good treatment plan, and nothing else is going to follow. But if you really can get to the root of what's going on with a good assessment, and then you can apply the appropriate treatment, and then you overcome whatever that is, and then you want to maintain it. If it's bringing the blood pressure, blood sugar in balance, or the weight or whatever, maintain it. And then what do you monitor? What are you measuring? So we need to be able to speak to our healthcare providers and determine what do they know, what tests need to be conducted, how, if the person that we're caregiving for, okay, because we're all going to be cared for and caregivers, but knowing what to do, then we'll have totally different outcomes than what we're having now, and these are things that we can learn.
That's man, I'm gonna have to get you back. Now I want to, before I go into my classic Detroit is different questions, man. You're laying some science on us too. I definitely want you to give some information, and I'll put it in lower thirds too, of how people get in contact with the class and learn more about it. But what would you like to share? Like, if this is an open space, I don't know if you have more to share, like that you want to give some game that you want to talk to the people on.
Well, what I at this point, what I'd like to share, and I welcome a invitation to come back, because there's
so much more to talk about.
We don't understand our bodies. We don't understand the earth, and the more we understand our bodies and the earth, we'll be much better stewards.
Yeah, I like the ginger question. It's like, next time you come back, I'm going to have everything. I'm going to be like, what about lemon? And what about jackfruit? Because I keep hearing about jackfruit. You know, I'm going to just throw a lot of stuff at you. But what would you like to share?
I'd like to share that we were given one body, right?
Yeah.
Okay, to take care of. We were given one temple. We weren't given a car. We weren't given clothes. We weren't given red bottoms and golf clubs or whatever. We were given a body to take care of. And we are derelict in our responsibilities, derelict in our duties, and remiss in our responsibilities by not understanding how to take care of ourselves, much less those that we are here to care for. Taking care of children isn't just sending them to school and dressing them up, making them look nice and make sure the hair is done and or whatever. It's like you're responsible for them, especially until they come to an age where they can fend for themselves. You're responsible for their health and well-being. You're responsible for their mental development and growth, and a lot of that is what they eat. It's mostly things other than what people are putting their time and energy into. Okay, the success of a child isn't how sharp they are when they go to school. Okay, it's the intention that we have. It's the appreciation that we instill in them. It's having them to understand, to love people and like things, not love things and like or sometimes even dislike people. Okay. It's, so that they value themselves. So suicides, killings, violence on other people, there shouldn't be people killing their parents or someone for a life insurance policy or because they want to, they want to quicken the process of hopefully acquiring this stuff. We want to value life, and that's not what's been happening for a good period of time. So, Holistic Training Institute .teachable.com, and that's holistic with a W, will will help people to get to where there are some free classes, and there will always be free and low-cost courses, as well as courses that where a person could take that will help them to understand about herbs. And we'll have more on foods and food preparation and the things we need for living. Naturopathy, which is basically what you term what we teach, is the natural path, is taking a natural path. And we can take a natural path and heal ourselves, heal our earth, heal our communities, because there's a whole lot of healing that needs to go on. If we look at what's happening today, it's a sickness. It's people say, oh my goodness, all this, and they want to blame everybody and everything else outside of us, when it really comes down to a lot of individual choices and what are we promoting and what are we advocating for, what are we supporting. We need to support those things that really matter long term. I say there are 6 things that I've got. In fact, it came up in a recent article that say, in choosing a career or even our life path, is it solve problems or does it create problems? Is it good for the planet? Does it solve problems for people? Is it good for the planet? Is it principled? And then, is it profitable? Can it be passed along? And can we be philanthropic in that? Can we be generous? Can we experience abundance with that? So we need to measure things not just by the bottom line. Stop teaching your kids just to work for money or whoever, going to the highest bidder. It's not just about that. It's the difference that we make in the world. It's fulfilling our purpose. When we are raising kids, it's not just are you going to make money from raising your kids? No. Okay. I mean, hopefully they're going to do well. Maybe they'll take care of you in the latter years.
Yeah.
But you're not doing it because it's profitable. Okay. Everything should not be profit oriented. It's outcome. What are the outcomes that we're getting? What are the principles that we're teaching as we go along the way? So hopefully we'll have, we will, with the help of your audience and people out here, we will have an HBCU of sorts of holistic health that are going to teach people more about living and sharing and things online and in ways that makes a difference in the world.
It's unique you speak about that because Tuskegee, as I don't know how many
There we
people
go.
notice, Tuskegee was founded on the whole grounds of agricultural science.
It
Hence
was.
George Washington Carver.
Yes.
My great uncle Edgar Rulac Jr. He studied right under George Washington Carver at Tuskegee for a while.
Wow.
Yeah, in poultry science. I didn't even know poultry had a science. Like he was like, yeah, man, you can hit a chicken with a needle and all the feathers fall off. I'm like, for real? All types of just
animal
stuff.
husbandry and how that came together. And that was a genius of man. We got genius in our genes and diamonds in our DNA.
Oh, man.
There's so much more that we can do.
Yeah, which, as you were saying, it was another one of the guilty pleasures things. When you talk, I want to do a whole, next time you come in, I really want to talk to you about sleep and the health of sleep because, a lot of us, especially we work, we get caught up in the busyness of life. And I know I've online some stuff about the restorative health of sleep. And I think a lot of us as Americans don't get it. So,
we get sick and we die early because when we lack sleep.
I figure you can explain, and I really want you to expand on that because I know it's a lot of people, even me included, I want to find out more about that art because it's like 8 hours. 8 hours just seems like a lot. But then again, it's like, that 8 hours, it's like, damn, you should have had that extra 2 hours, like you say, if you're facing some health challenges.
Restorative sleep. We got to restore, we got to regenerate. But again, that's a topic for another day.
Back on that one.
And I want to thank you and
I got my classic. I got my classic Detroit is different questions for you first before.
Okay. We got more. But wait, there's more.
Yes.
Okay.
Very first car, year, make, and model. What year did you get it?
1966 Buick LeSabre. Got it in 1974. The fall of 1974.
Okay. Where was the first place you went when you got it?
Probably my best friend's to
Okay, to show it off.
Yeah, and to go hang out. Either that or
Okay.
my girlfriend at the time. Yeah.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Okay. You're the DJ at the end of the fireworks.
Uh-huh.
You're at Woodward and Jefferson. You get to play some songs. What 3 songs? I usually say 3 songs. Sometimes people pick 1, but what 3 songs you playing?
I'm the DJ.
Yep.
Ooh, I'm playing. Let's see. One would be something James Brown.
Well, if I get a pick, we can pick.
I'm Black and I'm Proud.
I'm with it.
I've got to play some Stevie Wonder.
Okay. Yeah, I saw that picture with you and Stevie. You was hanging
Oh
with the
yeah,
genius.
he was perhaps the first celebrity that I ever met.
Wow, for real. Well, that's a heck of a
Yeah.
That's a heck of a first celebrity to meet a celebrity.
Yeah, and
You know.
he's really compassionate person. And I've seen.
Mhm.
Let's see, and then
And wait, you didn't give a song. What Stevie?
oh Stevie, God, Superstition comes to mind, but the
We in Detroit, I think it's another song you should play.
oh
It's a song that's very beloved here, and I think outside the country it will never be on his greatest hits.
oh okay, the one that we do the hustle to.
And my eyes don't cry. No
My
more.
eyes don't cry no more. It could be like My Eyes Don't Cry No More. Okay.
Yeah, it's like the rest of the country is like, why are these Detroiters? Why is he singing this song here?
And then a third. Let's see. First, I need to think of an artist, and then the song. Gosh. Ooh, Whitney Houston. I mean, she.
What?
The song from the soundtrack. From the Bodyguard.
Oh, I'll always love you.
I'll always love you.
Okay.
Oh my, that touches me.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Hey, well, she definitely delivered a
Yeah.
rendition of the song where Dolly Parton's like, hey,
You can
gotta
own
hand it
that.
to her. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
Gotta hand
And
it
very
to
well
her.
should have. Yeah.
And last question. You could rename Woodward after one Detroiter. Who would it be and why?
We name Woodward after a Detroiter. Ooh. I'm gonna go with Coleman Young.
Okay. He's usually the vote.
Because he was so pivotal, so instrumental in a critical time in Detroit's history.
Mm-hmm.
So, there have been a lot of great Detroiters. Especially from my era. That's what vibrates to me.
That makes sense. Thank
Yeah.
you so much. And we definitely bringing you back. And
All right.
check the class. And then if you bump into him on the street, y'all already see. He'll give you some game, but he'll also reference you to the class as well. So
Remember, I'm a professional too.
yes, exactly. Be like, hey man, my arm was about to fall off. And it's like,
And that happens all the time.
it's like my arm was falling off. What can
Yeah.
I take? Can I take some
Yeah.
can I take some grape seed for that? Like
You're gonna need a little bit more than grape seed. Yeah.
all right. Thank you so much.
All right.
Peace.
Black revolutionaries, distillery owners, Italian fashion retailers, and Motown Grammy winners all share their best stories never before told in any other media outlets on Detroit is Different. Visit DetroitisDifferent.com or download the Detroit is Different app on Apple's App Store or Google's Play Store.